journalism, even though we live in the modern era. We now come to the winners. Handelsblatt has been elected Europe's best newspaper. It's the cover stories, it's the online strategy, and many other things that are responsible for this. Art designer, or Art Director Regina Baierl and Sven Afhüppe, well, they will now talk about the re-emergence of Handelsblatt for everyone who engages in commerce. Thanks for this recognition and the prize that we have received. Thank you very much. We feel very privileged. We from Handelsblatt, and we'd now like to talk briefly about what's been going on in-house for the past few years. Handelsblatt is based on 3 business pillars: print journalism, digital journalism, as well as live journalism. And I'm going to talk about this in greater detail. Now, if you come to our headquarters at Toulouse Allee in Düsseldorf, you might realize that there is a motto: future is what we make of it. That's what you see when you walk into our buildings, which means that we have to change. We have to face up to the challenges of digitization, new customers, and the new advertising world out there. If you don't do this, you're in for trouble, because nostalgia is not a category. If you only look into the past, you are bound to lag behind. So we have opted for these 3 business pillars, the pillars of our business model. Now, the most important pillar of these, of course, is the printed newspaper. That's our background. Just look at Handelsblatt, the way it looked like a few years ago. This is what it looked like 7 or 8 years ago. It was full of information and news. Everything was printed there. We wanted to accommodate whatever was possible. Of course, there was some kind of layout involved, but we focused on information. We wanted to print all the information. But then we said, well, our digital competitors come up with real-time information. They can do things better, so we can't really compete with them. Who wants to wait for trees to be felled, for newsprint to be made, and for information to be printed? This is what Handelsblatt looks like today. So there are focal areas that we have on the front page. There's a clearly structured layout. Well, every desk comes up with a focal story. The refugee crisis, for example. So we take a monothematic approach because our readers want to have guidance. There is a plethora of information available to them online. They want things to be sorted out. They want the newspaper that's printed the following day or available as a PDF. Well, this medium needs to have a value added. So we come up with analyses. We come up with substantive reporting. And if we manage to do this, if we manage to place 5 or 6 or 7 big reads, we have actually achieved a lot. If you just focus on the small stories, if you have no common thread, if you don't come up with in-depth research work, investigative journalism, well, you will fall by the wayside in today's journalism. So what I tell the colleagues is the length of the copy is not important, but the idea is. So that's really what's most important for us. So we should get out of the Me Too trap. Well, we know, of course, what the stories will be printed by Süddeutsche, FAZ, and others, what the front pages will feature. That's all something that we can calculate. So newspapers have become interchangeable. We need to step out of this trap of censorship. We should come up with a certain spin, with a certain vantage point. We want to be different from other media. That's our claim. Digitization. Well, over the past few years, we have, of course, been driven by digitization. Nothing new regarding apps, but we've now come up with an app that allows you to take a look at online coverage and to also use a button in the upper right corner, and that will give you access to the complete newspaper. So you press on print, you upload the newspaper, all this is IBF relevant. So this is the PDF format over and above the digital offer that we also make. So you can browse through the content, you can click on individual text to enlarge them, and a lot of other features as well. Well, graphic design is also quite important for a business daily, which is also a core element of our digital app. Of course, here we present things quite well. We have graphs, additional information may be displayed by the app. And what this results in is a very haptic feel for numbers that can also tell stories. Regina, our art director, will also talk about the graphic centerfold two-page article where there's a focus on figures, smartphone sales figures, for example, or global hunger, whatever. 3 years ago, we received, somebody came up with the Pulitzer Prize for data journalism. Well, data, that's part of journalism, and we try to come up with data in a very appealing way. Top stories are also displayed here, and one of our major assets, of course, is morning briefing. That's the wake-up call that Gabor Steinert came up with and invented, which is now being developed. 700,000 readers, 150,000 of whom actually read the English morning briefing app. 550,000 readers read it in German. There's also an audio morning briefing, and I hope that there's not a technological glitch there.
Unterschiede gibt, die Leute zusammenzusetzen und zu sagen, wie ist unser Blickwinkel, wie ist der Blickwinkel aus der amerikanischen Seite und dann Lösungen zu finden, Kompromisse, die für beide gut sind.
So, das Morning Briefing.
All right. Donald Trump first, and then Angela Merkel. I would give me an A+, he said. So we're mixing morning briefing copy with live quotes on current events. This is a wake-up call, which is something that the Germans like. I don't know if newsletters have more readers in other countries in Europe. I don't think so. So we do this because we love to write. This is produced every night, around midnight, in order to cover current events. There is a small editorial team in New York to edit the whole thing, to update things if a Trump tweet should be added, and so on and so forth. So what's the underlying idea? And this brings me to the third pillar. We want to reach our readers. Well, we don't have subscribers anymore. We have club members. And this is what we've had for 2 years now. We want to reach out to our readers. We want to discuss things with them, and we'd like to invite them to events to talk about major events. Hannah Arendt once said that it takes two to tango, also regarding truth. So we need to dance a tango with the readers. An editor-in-chief of a German newspaper who's here asked me a while ago when we organized an event with Wolfgang Schäuble in Berlin. And this event was then covered by our newspaper. A lot of pictures were seen. And then somebody asked me, well, how many celebrities actually attended your event? Well, our celebrities are our readers. And that's the important mindset. It's not the journalists that are in the foreground. We should think differently from Facebook, Google, and Amazon. We should focus on our readers. What are our readers interested in? We should take them seriously. We should take them along. They're peers for us. Our readers, and this is not just true for our readers, but your readers as well, our readers are smart people, intelligent people that want to participate. We live in a world of digitization and social media, and becoming part of something bigger, taking part in conferences or German dinners, as we call them. Well, that's very important. That's what we organized on the 1st of May, the day of labor. Well, we said Labor Day should become the day of thinking. We invite keynote speakers to our events. We talk with them. We talk with CEOs about leadership issues, how to promote talents, how to establish a culture of trust. We reach out to the young talents working for the big corporations. Then we have high-ranking politicians and CEOs that attend our events. Then questions are asked by the readers. So this is a conference, Bankentag, that we've been involved with for 20 years. We also have live feeds to the US. Lloyd Blankfein, for example, talked to us. Artificial intelligence, other digitization issues also play an important role. And all of this, of course, is part and parcel of journalism, because news is also generated during those events. In the past, things were different. In the past, you had events where CEOs took the floor, such as Mr. Baumann. Well, you have keynotes now that also convey news, that come up with a substance, just like in the case of a newspaper. So our keynotes, of course, are no longer vacuous. Regina, our art director, is responsible for the optical design of Handelsblatt, and she's going to talk about this in greater detail now. So what does this mean for us in terms of the layout of the newspaper and the design of the newspaper? What's the meaning of all of this for this new world? Now, of course, we want to be different from others. Small, short articles are transformed into snippets. Often, we, from the Handelsblatt, well, we focus on certain areas. We focus on the background, the big picture. Digital content is provided in standardized templates. That's what we have been doing differently from the internet and from print media of the past. We want to have creative design elements for our readers. So we want to have content that is up to date. And this gives rise to fast-paced developments. Now, as far as print media are concerned, well, we need to take countermeasures because we can't be as fast-paced as internet-based media. We need to focus on quality, on values. So the printed newspaper looks different from the web version. It's a premium product, as it were, offering exclusive content and exclusive design. So that all resulted in the relaunch we carried out back in 2016. Handelsblatt has been made up of monothematic double spreads, two-page articles. And then we also introduced what we call Super Ilo, Super Magazine, which again focuses on a single topic on 2 pages. And we use infographics for this purpose. Over and above that, ever since the relaunch, we've had grids. We've got white spaces, and we have various levels of storytelling. So we focus on the big picture, and we also use big images, big pictures, to support the big picture or the big stories. We introduced new fonts, which was very important because now our design is just a lot more modern and sophisticated. And these pages are cases in point. So we've covered politics, business, finances, safety. We have a more restricted view, if you like. We focus on these areas only. And that's why we need to come up with new ways of storytelling all the time, because we only focus on specific areas. We have long articles, of course, but every spread has different levels of storytelling. There's copy, there are quotes, infographics, and numbers. And that's what the double pages, the centerfolds, or spreads all provide. Of course, we also like to experiment. Basically, what's important for us is for the design not to be uncoupled from the content. It shouldn't be an end in itself. The optical design, the graphic design, supports the whole process and should whet the reader's appetite. But of course, complex situations need to be explained, and that is true for finances. And they should become a bit simplified. We have infographic experts. We've got 10 designers working for our infographic department, and they're able to simplify things for our readers. Copy, pictures, and infographics, we like to merge them so that they become interlocked. And this is our USP. And this is what the typical Handelsblatt look is all about. As was already pointed out by my colleague, the core element of our newspaper is the infographic double page or spread. It's really the centerfold, and it can be taken out like a poster, basically. So what my colleagues have done is this. I mean, they've developed this further. Infographic centerfolds are now designed by one designer on any given day, because they're now well versed in this. But so we have developed our design further, and we also have, of course, the weekend spreads. And that, of course, is a daunting challenge for us. When you work in this area, you have to come up with new and appealing images, riveting images, and that has been quite a challenge, of course, but we've been pretty successful. So our journalists, of course, spend a lot of time and energy on their stories, and we provide unique story formats, and the form follows the content. So we've got a splash that differentiates us from other articles. And then a design idea is presented on 4 or 5 pages, and we do this in a very consistent fashion. Elon Musk and Tesla are presented here. And this is an article devoted to Middelhoff, a German CEO who ended up in prison for a while. So the visuals, of course, should also be uncoupled from the copy. There should not be one-on-one imagery. So the copy follows its own structure. What we try to do with the visuals is to explain the storyline, the chronology. We've got a timeline that spreads across 3 double pages or spreads. Another example here, devoted to investors and their quest for profits. This is a story about the future of diesel engines. Well, this is something that kept us quite busy last year as well. It's kept us quite busy for the past few years. And this is an example devoted to digitization. So a spread may come up with a lot of illustrations, such as this one. This article is about digitization and the major projects that have been carried out in Germany. Finally, an excerpt from our Menschen des Jahres, People of the Year issue that comes out every year in December. Last year, what we tried to do is this. We had 20 double pages, and we tried to shed light on the protagonists. We tried to portray them and to also stage them in a way. So the challenges that we're facing are numerous. We like to come up with variety, and we like to come up with variety as far as storytelling is concerned. We like to inform our readers, and we also like to surprise and entertain our readers. And with this, we'd like to thank you very much for your attention. Well, the beauty of it is that it looks more modern, more sophisticated, hip, flexible, and circulation figures have gone up too, so we're on the right track. Our circulation figures have increased by 10 or 11% over the past 7 years. The market has shrunk by 15%, but we have enlarged our figures. So print journalism is alive, and the future is what we make of it. Thank you.